Hello everyone, and welcome back to episode 4 of the Harmonious Engineering single-player Let's Play series. So I was out and about exploring. As you guys know, we live over here, so I decided to go southwest a little bit, south-southwest really, and I noticed that this part of the building had been destroyed, and I noticed a little more than just that part of the building had been destroyed. We will go investigate that, but I wanted to sort of explain as I go down here that if you see something like this is not a bug. This is actually a component of the mod uh, Beyond Space. So, uh, Beyond Earth, rather, not space. Where are my words? So if you do see something like this, don't be alarmed. Don't think that, these are going to come destroy my world, or they're going to come and screw up my housing. At worst, they're going to just cause you some world generation troubles. And that's really it. I think I hear a zombified or an alien villager. I'm not sure what that is. We'll find out in a moment. So these tend to have good loot. That's what I was thinking. I couldn't remember for sure if it was these or a different one. So let me clean out my inventory of all these things I've been picking up as I've been exploring, and pick up all of this stuff. It's all good stuff. So Skystone is just an aesthetically pleasing block. It doesn't really do anything else. But I do want to dig below here and see what else is down here, because it definitely seems like there's something. I have no idea what. I did recently, do I have it with me? Yeah, I did recently make a hammer. This will dig out a 3x3x3. That's a zombie villager. There was most certainly another noise, right? I'm not going crazy? Maybe? Might be going crazy? Well, never mind then. I really was kind of excited that we had maybe found something different, but apparently not. Anyways, I just kind of wanted to show off what this was and explain sort of the deal with these, because they are definitely quite cool, quite different. So anyways, I think that's just about it for this this village. So I'm going to head on and keep exploring for a little bit. I will, however, have stuff to do this episode, so I'll meet you back at base. All right, so I am home, I am organized, and I am diving right into our next little segment of content, and that is to get into some fluid storage, because remember, we do in fact have that oil spill slash oil pool over by our compressing area, and I want to clean that up so that we can start to make that area look nice, as well as pick up the fluids, because they are actually very useful. So we are going to go ahead and grab the fluid tank from Pneumatic Craft. Of course, you can tell I probably partly forgot the name there. I've been going around and looting iron whenever I find it. I've also been smelting it here and there, so we are doing decently well. I am actually going to save my charcoal as well, just in case we need it, because there are a very few recipe that will require us to use only copper. But there we go. We'll leave that guy to run there. And we are going to need a couple of these. I'm going to go ahead and make 4 because I imagine that's about how many we're going to need. And what we can do is go ahead and run over here and empty this out. Actually, there were a couple of things that I forgot that I was going to need before we head over there. Let's go ahead and grab our pressure pipes. We're also going to grab some Vortex Tubes. You will see why in a moment. I have an extra air compressor, so we're going to grab that and some of the equipment needed to bring that guy over with us, including a redstone repeater and a couple other things. So we will grab that. I think this is really all we need for the most part. But we were also going to need in this quest 2 refinery outputs at least. I'm going to make 4, and that's going to mean we're going to need 4 diamonds. And we're going to need 1 actual refinery controller, which is going to be 2 redstone. And then these all require reinforced stone slabs. So that means we need to get a couple more of those as well. Fortunately, with the Silk Touch, that has made things significantly easier to do. So we will grab 20 should be fine. And I think I can stone cut these into their slabs, yeah? And that's the right one. So we'll do that because we do need quite a few of these. like I said, we're going to need 1 refinery controller and 4. What am I short on? Glass? Probably glass. Refinery outputs. We'll need to get a little more sand to get a little more glass. It seems like we are running out of basically all the things right now, but that's okay. That just happens in a small little Let's Play like this. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and set up over here a small setup, expand the air compressors over a bit. Should have brought some fuel, but I will just share some of that fuel from the other 4 air compressors to a 5th air compressor. And the 5th air compressor is going to be, it was just one that I found while I was out and about. But you know, the more air compressors you find, the better, at least in my opinion, for my findings, just on account of the fact that, you know, they tend to be kind of a pain to craft, but if you can just find one sitting there, I'll use one. And if I can get a lot of these together, then what you can do is reduce the amount of time that it takes to rebuild your air pressure capacity, and you can even increase your system's overall capacity and production rate. So that means that you can use more at once, you can store a little bit more buffer, so on and so forth. So we are going to steal just a little bit. That's 19, that's 23, close enough. And so now you can see we're going to get to that 5 mark a little faster. We will run into some concerns about this possibly overcharging, but we will see if that's a concern as well. So you need to be set to low signal so that we don't burst anything. Warnings, redstone settings preventing this machine from running. Perfect. So now we have just a tiny bit more capacity. You can see this guy is just running away, filling up its capacity slowly but surely, because we did lose a little bit of capacity. And so what we're going to need this for is our setup for a refinery. So we're going to have a couple of components here. We're going to have a refinery controller. This guy I'm going to put right smack dab in the center, just for... yeah, okay, good. Right smack dab in the center, just for the sake of it. And you can see it's going to complain because there is 1 fluid input, and it looks like there are 4 little outputs. And these are where our refinery outputs are going to go. So they will need to go directly on top. I told you to turn off. Well, this is part of why I don't love pneumatic craft as much, is because it does dumb things like this sometimes. Why did it was working this whole time just fine. Why did you decide to not work all of a sudden? I'm wondering if there's a bug with the redstone settings on these air compressors, because they seem to really not want to work correctly. Well, I guess for now we're just going to run on 2, and I'm probably just not going to make any more, because I've been burned a couple of times on these now, so I'm good. I'm just gonna deal with the supply that I have here. I have no idea why these are behaving so poorly, but whatever. There are, like I said, better tiers of compressors that we can get to. Make sure that these are set to the right setting. Yep, only run on low signal. Well, what is that you're getting right now? But a low signal, so you'll run until you don't, hopefully. Anyways, so you open this up and you see now those 4 tanks that were all red and empty are now 3, and we have 1 fewer issues. We still have some issues with this configuration. So let me scoop up all of this oil here into these tanks, and I'll get a couple of things cleaned up over here in this little network system, because as you can tell, it is being very problematic. And we'll get into a couple of other things like the speed upgrades, which are really not too terribly far away for us. Okay, so I have a couple of things that might actually help us out over here with this annoying setup. So we're going to let everything kind of drain out for now. We're going to put a safety tube module on. You see that that's going to prevent the pressure from escaping any further. It's just right now currently coming to equilibrium with what was currently stored inside of our large pressure gauge, or pressure chamber. So what I'm going to do is restore this setup the way it was, because I liked it. I just clearly did something wrong 3 or 4 times. But what this will do here is if we, and I made a security module that used it and ran out of obsidian, so I decided to just use it instead. This module will prevent any high pressure in the tube if it reaches 4.9 bars on a normal tube, 19.9 for advanced pressure tubes. And then that will prevent an explosion. Mind you, this is still not ideal because, as it states, and it is completely correct, we're still wasting air pressure here. And I don't fully understand why. And then there is something that it says. You see it says inline, it's an inline module, no. So that means that where I have it here will not work. This is not an inline module, so I'm going to break it. We're going to put down piping here and put it on the edge here. And so that's going to basically just open every once in a while to release any extra pressure. From here, what I'm going to do is this, that, and that. I know that that was very loud. I do apologize that this system is just so frustratingly loud because it's not ideal, not what I would like to see at least. We will grab our repeaters, our reinforced slabs. That is in the wrong place, so that doesn't actually help. I'm going to use these just to sort of indicate at any time I'm working throughout this area, sort of where I need to avoid to be safe and not accidentally break some redstone that I need. And lastly, we're going to top these off with torches, as you know. Shame that our system broke because of a fifth one, even though I like triple checked all the settings. I really do think that there might just be a glitch in the configuration screen not actually properly saving, because I cannot fathom what else it could be at this point. But, you know, I'm still pretty new to Pneumatic Craft, even though I've played it all the way through a couple of times and once very recently. So it could just be a fault on my own end, and I do have a couple of mechanisms that I can implement that will help us out there. Right now, I'm just going to go through and clean up our system here, setup here, sort of minimize how much protruding wire we need. And what I'm probably going to do is keep this away from redstone as far as I can. And so I'm going to put this all the way over here on the end. That way, if somehow this thing is redstone controlled, which it looks like it says receiving redstone, so maybe that's what keeps happening to other things as well, we won't be affected, hopefully. I will cover this up. I don't think I'm accidentally covering up any redstone, cutting it off or anything. Again, I might be. I'm like 99% sure that this time we should be good, but that's what I've said. So, okay, enough grumbling and griping. We should have enough now for a fourth refinery controller. I believe I made that and got that taken care of. So we can go ahead and put these up. And now it is going to complain to us about something that we need to do. So I'm going to get a couple of extra blocks that we can put on the sides here. Actually, you know what I can do? Let me go get some blocks for this. But what you're going to see is there is an annoyance or three because there is no way for us to keep this warmed. So we're going to need to do a couple of things. We need to warm up this guy for it to work. Right now you see it's at 16 degrees Celsius in temperature. We need to actually get it all the way up to 100 degrees Celsius or so. So what I'm going to do is hook these 3 vortex tubes up. I also need to refeed you guys coal because I forgot about that. The vortex tubes here are going to take in pressure from our pressure system. So we will need to get them piped in, which is part of why I have sort of cleaned up some of my piping work here. My preference is to get as much piped up in advance as possible so that you don't have all that much noise coming out of your system when you're setting it up. But you can see that these guys can accept up to 20 bar, so we're not going to have to worry about them exploding, I don't think. And again, we have the valve now to help. So I'm going to go grab a couple of blocks. So I've got all this compressed stone. I figured I may as well use it. So we're going to need to interface in a couple of different ways. We're going to go ahead and toss in our crude oil. That's going to free up a tank. We're going to need to cover up every single side of this that we don't actively need. Unfortunately, we need most of our sides here, but there are, in fact, a few that we're not going to always need 100% of the time. So we're going to go ahead and cover those. For example, these, when you right-click on them, they show you the same thing as when you right-click on the base of the machine. So there's not really a lot of purpose it shows, or it has, to keep it visible and active. Likewise, what I should have done, I don't know why I didn't think of this, is given myself a spot here to just sort of easily sneak in and access this machine. Because it doesn't matter if it is fully covered, just that it is covered. So we need more heat. Currently, we're producing 58 pressure. Mind you, we're producing heat with a vacuum, so that's going to take a little bit of time and a lot of pressure. So think we're good. I think we're good. So we are slowly rebuilding our pressure. Mind you, our pressure chamber here is also hooked up to the same system, so that is a slight annoyance as well. I'm going to put this in here just because I already have it and I don't want it to explode, so let's avoid that, ideally. And this guy should be reaching pretty warm temperatures. We're already up to about 70 degrees. And so we've got 16 millibuckets of crude oil in there. And when this starts to process at its peak temperature, what we're going to see is if we look at crude oil from Pneumatic Craft, it will process into these 4 items at 100 degrees or more. So that's going to give us diesel, kerosene, gasoline, and LPG. LPG will give us molten plastic, and diesel can be used as a fuel. It can also be used to charge an immersive engineering drill. We can refine in another one of these thermopneumatic processing plants that we can create. We don't have one yet, but when we get one, we can use it to refine further a couple of other materials out of it, like more gasoline, which can also be used in immersive engineering's tool sets. So while that goes, because that is going to take a little while, I'm going to clean up this area a little bit because it looks pretty bad by my definition. So I'm going to kind of go through and do some landscaping, get some grass down, clean some stuff up, kind of just overall make this place feel a little bit less drab, a little bit less soggy, stuff like that. So I'll be back whenever this guy starts to do something, and in the meantime, I'm just going to keep on redecorating and cleaning up. Okay, so it is sputtering on and off because we are just barely able to produce enough pressure to just barely be able to keep these guys over here on. So we're just barely providing you with enough pressure, this refinery. But you can see we're getting tiny, tiny bits of diesel, kerosene, gasoline, and LPG. So I'm going to leave that running. Like I said, I have some decoration and terraforming to do. You can see I've already made some progress, and I'm going to keep it up. So I'll see you in a bit. Alrighty, so it's been about an hour. I am actually really happy with this. So let's take a look. What do you think? This isn't a lot of work. I really wanted this to be like, and this will grow in, by the way, so don't be too concerned about it. And I will bone meal what I can. But I really wanted to go for something kind of industrial, but also kind of like, outdoor workshop-y kind of thing. So this wall is not meant to really retain anything except for our hopes and dreams. Beyond that, like it's just here. It's not really like meant to be all that big of a deal. Now, we are producing, as you can see, LPG. So what I'm going to do is figure out which one is holding it. I believe it's the top one. Yep. And I believe, if I remember correctly, the next quest that we have on our quest line is to gather a bucket of LPG. And then we can get ourselves a thermo-pneumatic chamber. So let's go ahead and clean up the inventory of all these building blocks that I brought out to finish up this build. And let's get ourselves a thermometric chamber set up because those are going to be really fun and really interesting to work with, at least in my experience. Okay, so we are going to be working towards a thermo-pneumatic processing plant. This guy's going to require 2 fluid tanks. I believe our glass should be ready for us over here. So we can go ahead and get those ready. Is there like a creeper outside or something? Hello? Oh, it's a bee. What a welcome friend. We love to see our bees here. Anyways, let's get some iron bars. I believe we should be all cleaned up here. We'll go ahead and grab a couple of fluid tanks with some compressed iron. I think probably just 2 more should be fine. Let's go ahead and get the thermo-pneumatic processing plant after we get some of the compressed iron slabs that we have been needing. It looks like I am already out of smooth stone, even though we do have silk touch and I have been using it. So let's go ahead and get this smelted up as well. All right, so that will get us a thermo-pneumatic processing plant. That should be good for us at least, because now we can start working on warming up our what is it, the LPG. There we go. And combining that with coal will get us some molten plastic. So we're going to grab some coal to bring with us. We're also going to need some to refill our poor little air compressors. Words. And then I'm also going to make sure that we grab some heat sources. So I was using the, previously I had been using the lovely Vortex Tubes, and I think we might still be able to do something like that, but I would be interested in trying out some other heat sources. So if we had soul sand, and I don't think we do, but if we did have some, or could find some, we could use that. Lava can also be used. Unfortunately, all of these, when you start looking into heat here, you can see like this is, you'll see the heat properties of these various things. You'll see that some of these will produce a lot of heat, but they will eventually go out. So that's the only problem here, is that while I do have some things that will somewhat be helpful, or could be helpful potentially, there's a pretty good chance that they're going to go out. But I think maybe just a normal campfire would be helpful, because there is sort of an integration workaround here that we can go for, that I'll share with you, because it is kind of a funny integration that was never intended, but I don't mind it, because this is I can't say that it's an annoying mechanic, but it is a mildly annoying mechanic. So we're going to grab 4 of these, and with a torch, we can relight these when they go out. And if we had some sort of automatic block placing system or block activation system, which we could do with modular routers once we unlock that technology and learn more about it, we could technically make it so that we don't even need the vortex tubes. We just will constantly relight the campfires as we go. So right down the middle here, I'm just going to put this guy down right here. You can see that it is going to slowly require a little bit of pressure. So maybe we should put it over here instead. Put it right. I don't know. Well, we have 14 pressure tubes. Maybe we can run this somewhere. Let's see how that would work if we did want to do that. So we would have to run it below all of this, I imagine. And I don't know how far we would get. Let's figure that out, I guess, right? I mean, may as well. And to make more of these, by the way, you would just need some glass and some compressed iron ingots. So we could probably still keep this where I wanted to put it and just make a few more. And somewhere around here, I thought I put down a crafting table, but I guess I ended up bringing it with me. So let's make this the home for another one. And I know that that's kind of a goofy place to put it, but you know, realistically, with how much work we've got to do just in this kind of vague area, I'd say it makes some sense. So let's put it right here. We'll do a tube line straight across, and I'll go through and obviously fill all this gravel back in, at least as well as I can, because we will be losing a little bit since I don't have Silk Touch. And we will fill this in. Oops. Now we can go through and fill in the stone here. And I am going to just break in here. I think this should work, right? And go ahead and get this connected on the other end as well. That way we don't have a large noise coming through. So let's put you right here. We will, like I said, fill all the rest of this in here in just a little bit. And now we should just need that one. And you over here, all the way over here, should start to increase in at least a little bit of pressure, ideally. Right? Possibly, yeah, okay, looks like we are. However, we ran out of fuel, so let's put fuel back in there, and that will help us out even more. So we will now surround this guy. I think I had mentioned this before, but we will have, I like to decorate these a little bit, because otherwise they just look sad. So I'm going to decorate this up a little tiny bit. You know, it doesn't actually have to be all that beautifully decorated at all. It doesn't need any decoration, to be honest, but you know, I like to try to make these kind of feel slightly integrated. So we will do something like that. Put those 4 on top. And the reason is that we are going, some walls would look really good in the corners now that I think about it, is that we are going to surround all four sides of this with campfires. And that's going to bring that heat up real fast. You can see the pressure's going up a little bit as well, but the heat is really the attribute that I'm looking for here, the absolute most. Let me get some stone wall, or maybe, I don't know if compressed stone can be turned into a wall. If it can, then I'll use something like that. But just something to kind of hold up those corners I think would look really cool. Let's see if this can be turned into wall. Yes. Maybe do 8 more, just in case we decide to really deep dive into this and really choose to commit, I think is really the word I'm looking for here. So now, again, something like this just in the corners to hold it up, to give it some sense of gravity, I think should help. You can see our temperature has skyrocketed. Remember, this guy over here is wanting 100 Celsius, and we're just barely struggling to, or we are very much struggling to keep that up. So we might want to move to that system over here as well. Might not be a bad idea to do that. So let's try that out. Again, we are going to, in time, we're going to have issues, but I think for now we'll be okay as far as the longevity of a setup like this, but I think we'll be fine. So what I can do is destroy those. We'll destroy this as well. Of course, our system is going to, rightfully so, be relatively peeved with us, but we're trying to help. We're just here to help. And so what we can do is do campfires on the sides instead. And I think, ooh, that's not ideal. Silk touch, silk touch. We can do campfires on these sides, and now you can see that we are going to just sort of skyrocket our usage overall. Or rather our production, not our usage, our production overall will begin to definitely increase pretty quickly. As mentioned, I'll go back and get some calcite to clean this up and stuff, but this is, wait, no, this is going down. Hang on. What? How? That's weird. Okay, well, I thought that would actually help, but maybe... because one side is exposed. There we go. That does help. I just had an entire side exposed. That does not help. So we're going to put our bucket of LPG in here, and we're going to give it a piece of coal, and that is going to produce, for every 100, it's going to produce 1 bucket. So this is actually really greatly efficient for us as far as producing plastic, molten plastic. Now, mind you, that plastic is, in fact, molten, and that does not help really all that many people. So we're going to need to look into some of the better ways of converting that over into solid plastic. And one of the methods is to use the Vortex Tubes that I just snagged, which I will probably do, and we will grab ourselves a heat frame. And so this heat frame will go on a chest, a barrel, a storage drawer, or whatever you really want it to be. And we will put that bucket of molten rubber in there, and it will cool itself off. So let's grab ourselves a furnace, and then a heat frame, respectively. So what we can do at this point, grab some building materials to clean our place up over there, because we are missing a couple of calcite blocks. Not like it's that big of a deal. And now we can start to work on getting the temperature reduced. So what we can do, right, is have a chest, I don't know, here perhaps. We're going to need to borrow more pressure, unfortunately, but that's just sort of the way it is. And we're going to put our heat frame on the chest. And you see it just form fits directly onto it. We're going to need what we would normally have as a heat sink, right? But I don't have any heat sinks. So we're just going to kind of let it do whatever it decides to do. And hopefully it decides to work with us here. The heat sink. Oh, that's actually not that bad. I should just make a heat sink. I don't know why I wouldn't. Let's make a heat sink real quick. We're actually going to need one for each. In case you hadn't noticed, I'm probably going to build a bridge. I haven't done anything, but done anything to really indicate it, but I take this path a lot, so we'll probably build a bridge over this little area here and have you walk into this space. It kind of works out anyway. So we'll put heat sinks here, and these will dissipate the heat that we produce because the blue side is cold and the red side is hot. So we want to cool the contents of this chest, and we want to remove the heat through a heat sink, which will dissipate the heat a lot. We can now connect these up via pressure tubes. Let's go ahead and get this last pressure tube connected. And I am not going to fully connect this yet, so I should have waited for that. Don't know why I didn't. But what we will do is get ourselves our bucket of molten plastic, which you can see was a task. We can now connect this and put this inside. And what you're going to see is this is going to drop temperature. This is going to get chillier and chillier. You can tell by the color on the chest itself is going to drop. And you can see we got one plastic sheet out of one bucket. And that's not very good, to be honest. There are significantly better ways to get plastic. But what we can do is get this even colder and even colder. You can see this is minus 130, minus 140. So if I put this in here now, that gets us 1. But there is an increased chance to get multiples as we increase the, or decrease rather, the temperature. So you can see now we're getting 2 most of the time. We might get 1 here and there, but for the most part, we're going to get 2. So that is sort of the game plan at this point, is to just sit here and do this until we get a decent bit of plastic. Plastic is definitely one of the major milestones in this pack. It's something that you're going to use a lot of. And in case it needed to be said, these are going to be hot most of the time. So try not to touch them if you can. And since I don't need the system on all the time, I'm just going to disconnect it. I'll let that bleed out. I'm not really too concerned. I just don't want to waste all of our pressure in the system because we don't have a particularly large amount. Let's go and finish filling this entire thing in. I believe I snuck a dirt block in somewhere too, but I can't see it, so I'm just going to assume that that's fine. And you can see that we are processing through our crude oil very respectably. So I'm going to come back up here and yoink another bucket of LPG, if I can, which I can. Nice. And we're going to go ahead and toss that also over here into our Thermo-Pneumatic processing unit. So I'm going to keep on doing this a couple more times until we are basically set on plastic, because already this helps a lot. This will unlock a handful of materials and items needed to progress through industrial foregoing, which is not available to us at all yet. If you want to know why, it's because the pity machine frame is going to require machines that we cannot afford. Namely, this blast chiller is going to be out of our grasp for a long time. We're going to need a circuit to start, and a handful of other things going forward. And I know that this all sounds like it's going to be a horrible grindy mess to do, but trust me, it is fun. It is one of those things that's going to make you slow down your progression as you play. But I think that having the occasional slowdown isn't such a bad thing. So I'm going to give this a little bit of time to get back down to a pretty cold temperature, sub 100 or sub negative 100 degrees. That way we can maximize the output from this system, because I don't want to waste plastic where possible. And I might even put a valve, like a redstone controllable valve over here if I can. I'm not really sure if that's something that is an option for us. All right, I'm letting my system bleed out again. No surprises there. I don't know if there is such a thing as a valve or some sort of pneumatic add-on or something that we can use to apply a signal to cut it off. Aside from the safety valve, I don't know if the safety valve is what I'm supposed to be using. There's like this guy, the safety tube module. One upgraded. Yeah, it doesn't look like it really does anything anything that I'm looking for. It does a lot. It just doesn't look like it does the thing that I'm trying to find, which is something that allows us to do a redstone control on a singular pipe. I believe there might be the regulator, which would be an option. Yeah, the regulator would do it, now that I think about it. And I don't think that would be too miserable to make, but I have no idea if that's something that I'm really going to want to look into now, or if I want to wait until we can get some better pressure production, because currently our pressure system is pretty lame. So we have these other fuels, we can use them. So in the fluid compressor, is it just like a fuel compressor? Liquid, here we go. So we're going to need, what is this? Ersatz leather? I didn't know this was a thing. How does one make that? Oh, that's cool. It's basically just vegan leather of sorts. Anyways, the liquid compressor looks pretty straightforward to make. I don't remember what it will burn. So we might want to look into that next episode. But we definitely have enough stuff going on for now. We have done plenty, getting ourselves all the way through a large majority of these things that we have to do. What I will probably do in between episodes is set up our... We have a charging station that I snagged from one of the villager houses. I will probably find a decent place to hook that up. In fact, I don't even think I need all that decent of a place. But I will put that in a decent place and then start getting a handful of things taken care of to get us closer and closer to an Amadron tablet. Because the closer we get to an Amadron tablet, the closer we get to speed upgrades for our fuel based devices, because we can order glycerin, we can order blueprints and get into these circuit maker type stuff. There's really just all sorts of stuff available for us to get into going forward. So yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed creating it, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.